So this is a Hypercube model that I downloaded from Thingiverse when I was doing my 3D printing and fabrication course. And I've just done some very basic edits, putting my name in and also the name of the structure itself. And this was really just a test run, tinkering around with these models while I was doing my course. And I actually printed this as well, which I'll show you in a second.
This is the Hypercube, printed Hypercube that I did with the Z-Core Z650 powder printer at the 3D printing class, and you can see the detail has come out quite well there. If you look up close, you might just be able to see some of the actual printed layers. I'm not sure if you can make that out there. So again, yeah, this is held together by super glue, all things, and it is quite fragile.
This was a Raspberry Pi case that I downloaded from Thingiverse. It did have a different design or logo on that plate. This is just the top case, so you have the bottom as well, and I've just basically filled in what was there and modeled in my own. And this was a Raspberry Pi case that I gave to Elise.
Here we have the printed Raspberry Pi case. I did this with a Z-Core Z650 powder printer, full color. You can see it's come out quite well in that yellow. It is very fragile. It's basically held together with super glue, and it has broken. So there's multiple parts here. I'm not sure if you can see that section that's been super glued back on. There's multiple parts here that have broken. It is rather fragile, and because it's so fragile, I did go and get this printed again, this time at Shapeways. So this is done with laser sintered plastic. You can see the piece there. It feels much better. It feels much stronger, and the join, the tolerances for the join are actually much better as well. All up, it comes together quite well. And you just quickly throw the little Raspberry Pi into that there, and yeah, you see it holds the Raspberry Pi quite well.
Here we have a structure that I modelled from scratch, just with the geometric tools here, combining various shapes together and coming up with this structure that you can see. It's got a funny looking shape. I did download a structure that fits in here and made that into a hole, and you'll see what that was actually for in a second.
This is that model that I designed myself. It's a funny looking shape. This was printed with an up printer. This is actually made out of ABS plastic, and I've added a little bit of super glue in places just to provide a little bit of added strength. So what this is for is to take one of these keychain 720p video cameras that have a micro SD card in there, and that acts as a mount. And then what you can do, you can grab a hobby model rocket and mount it onto the rocket with a bit of sticky tape, such that when you shoot the rocket up, you can video from below and try and minimize air resistance and provide quite a secure mount housing there. So that's why I designed that particular rig in that particular way. So that's a good example of a custom shape.
This is an object that I tried to design from scratch during my 3D printing course. The only thing I downloaded from Thingiverse was this shape for a Lego piece to interface with Lego pieces, and it's intended to be a mobile phone holder for my Galaxy Nexus phone.
This was my first attempt. This was done again on the Z-Core 650 full color powder printer. It is very fragile, and it was never really going to work. It's broken a couple of times. It's not really going to be able to hold a mobile phone.
Here we have another geometric object that I actually modelled from scratch, again with the various shapes and tools at your disposal here in Tinkercad. It has a particular purpose. You can see these little lugs, and these are to scale Lego pieces. So you can zoom in there, and you can see this has been modelled very carefully.
So the next step was to consider that, because I've already got a purchased mobile phone holder for the car or other purposes that works quite well. You can see with the Galaxy Nexus here, slots in very securely, is to try and design a rig to fit into these sockets. And so that's what this little rig is. This was also done with the ABS plastic printer, extrusion printer. And so we've got these 4 little lugs that should slot into that mobile phone holder, and again slots to integrate into Lego as well. So if we see that goes in there perfectly, just about, and we can add these bits of Lego which can securely attach that mobile phone to any Lego robot that I decide to make. But I also went and printed this at Shapeways as well. So again, this is laser sintered plastic powder. Tolerances here are much better. If you can have a look at the unit here and take those out and slot these in to there, you see, you can probably hear how they click in, and they're much firmer. The tolerances are much better. Not quite perfect, not quite up to Lego tolerances, but still much better than the ABS printed plastic.
One of the things in addition to my head that I obviously scanned in was my hand holding up a finger. It's a little bit juvenile, a little bit silly, but just for a laugh I thought I'd throw that in as well. If you're easily offended, look away for a couple of seconds, because I have some rather crude juvenile text on the back there that I'll quickly show for those that have an interest. There you go. So you can look back now.
Here we have the Shapeways printed version of the model of my hand sticking up a middle finger. Again, laser printed plastic powder. I do have text on the back here, and it's quite crude, so we won't look at that too long, and on the bottom as well. So you can see limitations here with the spatial resolution of the Xbox Kinect. You can see it's quite pixelated model. And so what this actually is a card protector. So I'm playing a monthly poker game with friends, Texas Hold'em poker, and when you get dealt your 2 cards, you have a look at them and you leave them on the table with the card protector there to make sure they don't get mugged by other cards. And I know the boys are going to have a good laugh at this one, because yeah, it'll be my middle finger as a card protector sticking up at them for the whole game.
So here we have the head scan once again, the model of my head that I've tried to do something else with. In this case, I tried to model and construct this feature here by combining a few of these different shapes together, and this I was hoping would turn out to be a keyring that I might put on my keychain and be able to take it around with me and show people what a 3D printed object actually looks like.
This is the final printed version of the keyring for a keychain. It is larger than I suspected, and I can't really use it as a keychain. I can't have an object that large hanging around in my pocket. But this is, again, Shapeways laser sintered plastic powder. It's turned out quite well. The process actually has quite high resolution, as you can see there.
This is another usage for my head model that I, on the spur of the moment, came up with. I've added this little loop here, which is intended to serve a particular purpose. And we can even look underneath there. I've actually hollowed it out, because when you get things printed at Shapeways, they charge by weight, and so getting rid of a lot of the excess material that I don't need just serves to cut down on costs a little bit as well.
This is the final print of the Mark Head Christmas bauble, printed at Shapeways once again in plastic, but embedded with an aluminium powder to give this alumide finish. And when we get up close there, you can see some of the detail and texture on the surface that you get with this sort of material. With the loop that I've added on to the top of the head there, I've threaded in that Christmas ribbon, and it's really intended to be hung on a Christmas tree. It's a bit of a gimmick, a bit of a joke. Everyone thought it was a bit of a laugh, and of course we'll finish by having a quick look of it actually hanging on the Christmas tree.
So here we have my model of my bust, and if you zoom in you can see the limitations of the resolution that the Xbox Kinect is currently capable of. You can see what basically looks like pixelation there. We can zoom right up. So by all means, the Xbox Connect scans are never going to be perfect. I'm hoping they come up with a better resolution scanner at some point in time, maybe even the Leap Motion.
This is the Shapeways printed ceramic material. You can see the texture there, and this model's turned out quite well. So that's a bust. It's been glazed afterwards. It's got quite a nice shiny glaze on there. Should last a long time. In general, I'm quite happy with it.
Here we are actually within Shapeways, and this is an example of a ring that I designed as part of the Shapeways Draw Your Own Ring service that they offer. I designed this ring for my fiance and had it 3D printed in silver and gave it to her, which she loved. And so just looking here, very basically, you get the general idea as that rotates around.
So here's the ring I had 3D printed in silver after designing it on the Shapeways website, and you can basically see the idea there. So printed with laser sintered silver powder and give it a polish afterwards to try and shine it up a little bit. You can see inside some of these edges that it's a little bit rough, and you can actually make out the layers on the edge of the A there. But otherwise, it turned out fine, and for a one-off customized piece, yeah, I'm pretty happy with it, and so was Elise.
So here we have the model of my head once again that I've added a flat base. I've then tried to model a handle as best as I could using these shapes, and then I've hollowed out the head as well. I've obviously intended this to be a coffee mug shaped like my head, but we'll see how it turned out like.
Here we have the, again, Shapeways printed ceramic material, glazed once again with a white glaze on that, fired. This is of course a Mark Head coffee mug. It has turned out smaller than what I originally envisioned, or, more of a teacup than a coffee mug perhaps, but there's probably a few uses we can get out of that. For example, we might just use this as a M&M little bowl. We can have our M&Ms and our Mark Head there. Or we could make a little cup of soup. Or even just a standard cup of coffee. Alright, so there we go, just for a laugh. We have a blue brain drawn onto the froth of my coffee and my coffee mug shaped like a Mark's head to celebrate Henry Markram's success in getting the blue brain funding up and off the ground. Cheers.